Starting a career as a data scientist, wow, looks vibrant, isn't it? But it is going to be filled with obstacles if some of the solutions are not given vibrantly when you are starting off your journey. You will notice how few questions constantly keep popping up: where to start, what to learn, and how to learn. If you have ever asked these questions or you are struggling to find the answers, you're not alone. Welcome to Radio 1.0 Career Coffee Show, wherein tonight I'm welcoming to Mr. Data Scientist, who has given an utmost data track performance and solved jigsaw puzzles as he offers the biggest challenges to help across the data science beginners, and his unsurmountable knowledge that he has walked in tonight for the show as well. He's all here to talk about a scattered data science concepts, which is making a common thread that follows all resources from a different approach. I welcome Mr. Ankur Sharma, a senior-led analytics professional who is currently taking a payment gateway as a task as one of the successful and major hurdle-free model amidst the pandemic times. Welcome, Ankur, and tonight I would like to answer some of the basic and the most commonly asked questions from me personally when an upcoming professional is building a career in data science field. The beginners will definitely get their answers figured out through you amidst the rough times hovering over us. Welcome to our show. Hi, Ankur. Are you here?
Hey Shruti, I can hear you.
Okay, so good evening. So tonight we have Mr. Ankur Sharma on our show, who is analytics professional for about 12 plus years of experience in allied industries. He has been working in and around in machine learning, analytics, and moreover, giving you the concepts on understanding how one can approach in today's time with the importance of analytics in our individual's life, and how one can also perform their duties if any upcoming professional is planning to progress and build further their career to the analytics industry. So we come over with a small discussion with Mr. Ankur Sharma, and he has come up with his insights for you guys to understand how and what process, upskilling, and route one needs to adapt to take care in preparing one's professional in analytics industry. Can we start with the first question?
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me, Shruti. We can start.
It's our pleasure to have you around to the show. So the first question that I often get to answer from, I often get asked from the upcoming professionals is, what's analytics professional and why it is termed as data scientist to any professional who is building their career in analytics industry?
So, data scientist is a relatively new term. It was coined only a few years back, and anyone who is basically working to get insights from data in any form should be categorized as a data scientist. You can be working on any technology which helps you with that. Converting raw data into meaningful insights is basically data science. That's the high level definition.
Okay, so you're saying that mining the data to a structured format is known as data science.
Even beyond that, I think that's just part of the process. But at the end of it, a data scientist's job is to get out business insights which are useful for the business, and they should be always attempting to leverage data to help help businesses grow, or like in whatever field they are applying data science.
And you think that the beginners will definitely get their answers to figure out how they can utilize the term data scientist whenever they're applying for any jobs?
Yes, so again, I mean, I think data science is not a magic potion. It will not always give you insights or right answers, but it will always give you clues instead. Like you will definitely get certain clues or certain directions, which you can then further work on. So I think it's a journey, and each problem is different. Uh, but it is important that data scientist does not remain just academic, but sort of, especially in industries, they contribute to the end goals of the organization that they are working for or like working towards it.
Okay. And in your opinion, what is data science, machine learning, and data mining? Are these three are totally different or they are interrelated to each other?
I would say data science is the broadest here. Like that's the umbrella under which the other two can be categorized. Whereas data mining is more like thing, like more exploratory analysis, where you would explore data to find out certain problems, and essentially it's more exploratory. Whereas machine learning is teaching machines how to think like humans, teaching them reasoning. Uh, that's basically more in terms of like how you can make a machine think logically like humans in order to solve a problem. Both of
Okay.
them are sort of different divisions of data science.
Okay. So you think that the upcoming professional who is planning to build their career in analytics industry is to look around that what kind of role is he looking forward to, like in structuring the data or learning the like machine learning aspect, algorithms working. What exactly? How can it differentiate basically?
So there are multiple ways to think about it. Typically, a very good way to start your journey is to do basic data analysis, not like directly jumping into advanced machine learning algorithms, etc. is typically very hard, and a person who is new to this will likely struggle and will probably fail. It's important to build a good foundation in data, which means that you need to know how to extract the right data from different sources, how to interpret the data in the right way, and then, if required, do you want to build models on top of that? And typically, most of the problems in the industry can be solved without complicated algorithms or uh, state-of-the-art machine learning. What most organizations are looking for is uh, logical interpretation of a lot of data that they have, and that is more critical than focusing on specific algorithms or complicated machine learning nuances.
Uh-huh. So, like during the pandemic and in upcoming post-pandemic, I should say, it is anticipated that data scientists are going to have a huge demand in the industry. And in the years to come, you will find every industry is having requirement of data scientists. What do you think uh, a profession needs to upskill the requirement during and post the pandemic times? And when it comes to building one's career, what necessary steps a professional, upcoming professional, needs to take, in terms of your guidance that we need to look forward to in this?
So over time, as you progress in your career, you should try to become a full stack data scientist. And what I mean by that is you should be able to own things from one end to the another. So
Okay.
you should be not working on just one particular aspect, but instead the entire flow, which means that you should have a very good idea of how to how to get data from databases, how do databases work, how do you optimize. So basically the part of handling the raw data. Then you also need to understand how to convert those raw data into meaningful models, meaningful exploratory insights, charts and dashboards. So basically present the data in the right way. And then the last step is basically to also make sure that you engineer those things for the broad organization. So if you have built a machine learning model on your computer, you should also be able to uh, put it on a deployment server to make sure that it is available for your entire organization. You should be able to do this entire flow and not just be limited to specific steps of this process. I think that's the right way to upskill, and also to make sure that you are continuously learning and evolving over time.
Over the time. Interesting. And do you think that only numbers, that is, placement of numbers, handling missing data, is the only job task that a beginner should, I should say, focus right now?
If you're like a if you're like a complete beginner, I would say that the biggest challenge would be to uh, basically extract data, because there'll be a lot of data given to you, and you will need to know how to extract it properly, and then secondly how to organize it correctly. So yes, to some extent, for a complete beginner, just having a sense of organizing the numbers in the right way so that they become presentable, they become a little more meaningful than if presented in complete raw form. So for instance, given an Excel table which has 1 million rows, can you convert it into a meaningful organization of data? I think that's a good first step for a new beginner who is just starting their career. They should be comfortable doing that, at least to begin with.
The time. And the most important lesson which Ankur has just spoken about is that new data scientists have to learn that not every question has a definitive answer. And there are so many analysts, I should say, are led astray by misguided data science training programs on which every exercise has a right answer that students are mainly guided along to find. So, according to this, what is the biggest myth about data analytics, and how one upcoming professional can actually deal with such kind of a myth?
So that's very correctly said, that when you do a course in data science, you will have textbook questions and clear defined textbook answers. But in real life, when you actually work with real data, most of the problems do not have a standard answer. Actually, it's one of the hardest problems to figure out a definitive answer, and the best way is to iterate over a period of time. So try things, discuss, brainstorm, understand what you got, and then again iterate. And you will need a lot of iteration for every problem. Most of the problems will be complicated to begin with, but as you go deeper into it and you iterate more and more, you will be closer to the right solution. And there may not be one right solution. It may be a combination of multiple smaller things, or sometimes you will not find a solution, and then you will have to just live with that. But I think an iterative approach is critical. Not giving up if you're not finding anything. Keep trying, keep talking to people, keep talking to folks to figure out what are you missing. You will over time start finding clues in the problem.
And do you think that it makes a good data scientist as a scientist?
Absolutely. I think most data science is really about iterating, whether it's like building a model which you want to be very accurate, or whether it be like trying to optimize certain queries, or whether it be like to keep coming with hypothesis or diagnostics for something that is not working. So a lot of it will not have straightforward answers. Nobody will come and tell you that you do these 5 things and you will get the answer. Typically, you will only discover that with time, and over time you should get better at it. You should be getting better at looking ahead of yourself. So you can, like, as you learn any art, if you learn chess, a good chess player can look 10 moves ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as a data scientist, you need to, over time, you should start learning to look ahead. You should know that, okay, like, this is what I'm seeing 5 steps down the line.
Yeah.
And then try to iterate accordingly.
So, according to you, what will you say that this is a good practice that one professional can, hold up to? What is that one best practice?
I would say that iterate and communicate. So,
and do you think writing this iteration and communication on resume will work out?
I would say on a resume, this will look really like, maybe people will not be able to understand this on a resume, but especially in interviews, if you are asked problems which are mostly open-ended, a lot of analytics interviews will have open-ended problems. People are trying to judge your thinking style. They are not really looking for a right or wrong answer. Given a problem, how do you think, how do you iterate, and how do you talk to the interviewer? Do you ask the right questions to these problems? Do you have an interactive discussion with the interviewer in order to make them feel like you are able to communicate properly for a problem which is not so straightforward? And I think it's the thinking process that will eventually matter when you get to talk to someone.
Okay, that is interesting. So data has become associated with the truth, and the data scientist's job merely is to coalesce myriad unrelated numbers into quantitative certainty. So what are the upcoming courses or skills that you would recommend the upcoming professionals to work upon and start considering equally important along with the degrees they are earning existently?
So there are a few basic things that everyone should try to learn, whether that be by online courses or on your job or by getting mentorship from more experienced people. First one is a working knowledge of couple of data-centric languages. This could include Python, SQL, or like you should try to know at least one data extraction language like SQL and one data manipulation language like Python. That is something you can very easily learn online. The second part is to learn presentation skills. How do you visualize data? What's the right way to present data to someone? Which is also very, very critical from a skill set perspective. And the third one would be to learn how to, and again, this is probably the hardest, but and only experience will be able to teach this. But this will be around what kind of methodology will work for what kind of problem. Is your problem requiring machine learning? Is your problem requiring exploratory analysis? Is your problem requiring visualization? So you should learn about these things to make sure that you understand that you are trying to find the right path for every problem and not really force-fitting things into each other. So if I know machine learning, I should not try to solve every problem using machine learning. If I have if I have a hammer, I should not be looking for nail everywhere.
Nail every time, yeah. And for that, what sort of websites would you recommend to upcoming professionals for growing more practices and, learning more and more and getting hands-on to practical experiences?
I would say it's critical to be on top of technology. It's changing so fast
Okay.
that you might end up learning something which gets obsolete in a couple of years. So it's critical to follow certain people who are sort of talking about different new technologies that are coming in, open source tooling, and so on. I would suggest to look for data science newsletters. There are several very good newsletters given
Mm-hmm.
by very experienced folks uh, in the industry. You should subscribe to them, and then everyone will send you an email once a week. You should try to go through some of those articles, and they'll give you some idea of where the industry is heading to, what are the things that are changing, and how do you need to continue your pace along with that uh, the pace of the industry growth.
Uh-huh. Okay. And I should rather ask you, who do you admire most in the data science community and why?
I think I'm a big fan of Dr. Andrew Ng. Uh, he's been pioneering machine learning. He's a founder of Coursera. I think the way he's trying to democratize data science, that is commendable. It is important that everyone gets a working knowledge of data. Over time, data science should hopefully become like Excel, where most people learn it or understand it. And I think that's the vision where you want everybody to become a citizen data scientist. There should not be a specific person who is the data scientist and everybody else in the organization knows nothing about data. Everyone in any organization should have basic understanding of how data works. How do you interpret data? How do you how do you look at data and then try to get some insightful information out of it?
Out
Over
of
time, that should become, everybody should get to learn that, and a lot of democratization is required for that.
Yeah.
And I think Andrew Ng is doing some fantastic work towards that.
So you're saying that in reality, so many of the decisions that business and governmental leaders must make do not have obvious answers. And that's where the data scientists have a role to intake and can replace the most irrelevant management core structures. So, one biggest question that is commonly asked by any upcoming professional, and I should say in almost every interview that is being, you know, asked as a data scientist from any upcoming professional. So, what is it that one basic question is being asked during the interview rounds?
Typically, you can expect uh, two kind of questions. Of course, you could be asked technical questions about any of the languages that you might have mentioned on your resume. But another question which is very likely to come up is sort of like a case study or an open-ended problem, where the company may try to give you a problem which does not really have a very clear answer, but they just want to understand how do you take that problem and how do you approach it. So case studies are something that you should either prepare for online or just try to basically uh, work for reasoning related interviews. In data science interviews, people are looking for your reasoning skills, how well you can reason, how well you can logically interpret data. So data interpretation, logical reasoning, those are very likely to come up while interviewing for these positions.
And you think logical reasoning and data interpretation can only be defined by technical expertise, or the professionals who are from the non-techie side can also prepare and go ahead further in data scientist field?
Could you repeat that, Shruti? I missed
Okay,
half
so
of that.
I'm asking that data interpretation, logical reasoning, is the only method that is being solved by technical upcoming professionals who have a technical background, or non-techie professionals can also plan to build their careers in data science field?
I would say that some technical expertise is mandatory to move into this field. So if you have never ever written a line of code in your life, you probably want to learn that before you go and try to become a data scientist.
Okay, so you're saying that coding is the foremost applicable method of, applying for any data scientist role.
Some kind of familiarity with a data focused language will be sort of essential for this
particular field of job. So if a position for any data analysis primarily yields candidates claiming that Python or SQL on their experienced resumes, do you think that company will still be hoping to hire these people, or they want more advanced expertise and deep mathematical background in machine learning from the professionals?
I don't think machine learning is that critical because most machine learning algorithms are pretty standardized. You just use the existing algorithms. It's the application of machine learning which is more important right now in industry, not necessarily a PhD in a very advanced section of machine learning. So you need more breadth than depth, really. Of course, that depends on what kind of role are you applying for. You might be applying for Google's certain position in Google, which does need you to have a PhD in research and a PhD in machine learning.
Okay.
And there you need that, but like let's say for entry level data analysis jobs, nobody really cares whether you know machine learning or not. What they really care is that can you think logically? Are you smart enough to ask right questions? And do you know either SQL or Python or any language which you can then start independently working on?
Mm-hmm. And giving appropriate answers and numbers to the companies. Okay, that's interesting to know. So the last question that for the round of today, I would really like to ask is that the most frequently asked question is, what one skill should the upcoming professional list down on its resume that will help him to get a data scientist job?
I would say learn SQL. SQL has been underrated as a language, and a lot of people think that they will be okay not learning SQL. But in reality, most of the data warehouses work on top of SQL, and SQL is a very old language. It's still very, very popular. And most of the times you'll end up using it wherever you go. So I would say that SQL is one of the most critical things you need to learn. Like if you really want to go become a data scientist, that's sort of like a mandatory prerequisite.
That's really nice intake, Mr. Ankur. And he is a senior lead analytics professional who has currently taking a payment gateway solutions on his hand and giving valuable suggestions and innumerable sort of solutions as a task that one successful major hurdle-free model is being built up during the pandemic time. We have been really fortunate to have him over the show, and this is immensely going to help the upcoming professionals to understand and build their career appropriately. Apting with any job position in today's time is required any professional to come forward to. Thank you so much, Mr. Ankur Sharma, for your time. I know that you have been really busy and have some personal commitments as well, but thank you so much for taking out time for us. And this is immensely going to help a lot, especially the upcoming professionals in coming time.
It's my pleasure, Shri, and all the best for the show. It's a great initiative, and I wish that a lot of people benefit from this.
I'm sure it will, and I'll definitely get flood of questions now over the session. I mean, I should say after the session, but definitely this is going to help us a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, bye bye. Good night.